As you know, I'm Councillor Ian Monker and I'm Chairman of the committee. On the top table today are Helen Meadows, Glenn Bowman, Chris Rickman and Dawn Matthews. Just a reminder, the meeting is being live streamed, but I don't intend to go through everything on this sheet because I think we know the fire safety rule. We're not expecting a fire drill today, so if it does go, you know where we need to head. We don't need to remind the members of the public, and we don't need to let you know about the order of how we're going to present the thing. So let's move on to item number 1, which is to receive declarations of interest from any members.
Chair, just to remind members that I am not a member of the Reefham Town Council and I have not discussed the first application with any members of the council or the applicant or any of body concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beadle. Anybody else? Item 2 is to report apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got apologies from Councillor Vincent, and Councillor Leggett is her substitute.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Leggett. And item 3 is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of October. Can I take them as a true reflection of the day's events? Yes, Chairman. Thank you. Thank you. And are there any matters arising? Anything from you, Helen? No. Okay, that moves us on to item 5. It's the applications for plan and permissions to be considered. And item 1 is, bear with me, the stables 15 Churchill, Reefham. Over to you, Glenn.
Thank you, Chairman. Morning, everybody. This is an application for a change of use from commercial premises to a single dwelling with internal alterations at 15 Churchill in Reefham. Before I start on the slides, just to pick out the key considerations, which are the principle of development, the impact on the character and appearance of the conservation area and some nearby listed buildings, the impact on residential amenity, and the impact on highway safety and parking. So let's look at the first slide, which may be helpful if I zoom in on a bit. This is just showing that the site in its wider context, it's within the built-up part of Reefham. So on the left-hand side, we've got the marketplace, Norwich Road, coming from Norwich, funnily enough, and then we've got the church just to the south of the site. And the site is accessed via a small driveway, which we'll see shortly. This is showing the site. The green area is the conservation area. It's quite an extensive conservation area, and the site is comfortably within it. And then a close-up view. We've got the spa. For those of you that know Reefham, we've got the spa on the corner just here. Again, the church hiding just underneath the label that says Churchill, and the site is accessed from Churchill to the south. This gives an indication of the listed buildings that are on either side of the access. They're grade 2 listed, and as we move on to the photos, we'll see what they look like. Quite attractive buildings in the historic part of Reefham. This is looking back towards the spa in the direction of Norwich to the east. Access clearly labelled. And then the site access itself. And then looking back towards the direction of the marketplace with the church just off screen on the left-hand side. And the application site itself is just here. As part of the application, no alterations are being made to the external appearance of it. So in that sense, there's going to be a neutral impact on those listed buildings just in the foreground there. And the character of the conservation area will be preserved as well. Just in terms of the principle of development, the report picks out that under policy E2 of the local plan, it needs to be demonstrated that the continued use of the building is no longer viable, or there are other benefits that outweigh the employment use. In this instance, that exercise hasn't been undertaken, but in view of our experience of dealing with similar applications around the district, and personally I've dealt with some in Aylsham in the past, if you don't have that road frontage, and it's a small unit which is quite difficult to adapt, then frankly no one's interested in it. And so in this case, we don't really see the point in them undertaking an exercise to produce a conclusion that we already consider is very likely. So in principle, we're content that reverting back to residential use as it once was is acceptable in this instance. This is just looking back towards the church and the access. You can see there's a shared courtyard area. You see the children's play equipment on the right-hand side. And then this is looking at the site very close up. In terms of residential amenity, the use of it as a residence is not going to have a significant impact in terms of it being overbearing or unneighbourly. There will be some overlooking of the neighbouring property just here, but that's already there, and it has happened in the past before when the house was used when the property was used as a dwelling. And this is just a drawing of what we've already seen in the photos. In terms of the layout, this is the existing ground floor plan. You'll see that it was once used from the report. It was previously used as an optician's, which gradually wound down over the last few years. Property's been vacant for quite a few years now, as we understand it. And then upstairs, again, we've got a toilet for staff and a study office area. And then in terms of what's being proposed downstairs, we've got kind of an open plan living, kitchen, dining area with the stairs going up to serve a bedroom and a home office and a bathroom. So the property is not listed itself, so the internal alterations are neither here nor there from a visual point of view and how it affects the external appearance of the building. And on the whole, the principle of development is acceptable. There'll be limited impact on residential amenity. The conservation area and the setting of listed buildings will be preserved, and the officer recommendation is to approve, Chairman.
Lovely, thank you, Glenn. Any questions for clarity for the officer? No? Councillor Beale.
And I notice the stack pipe is continued to be on the outside, although it be a new stack pipe. Is it possible to actually get them to put that internally?
That's not being proposed as part of the application, but it may well come about as and when the property is occupied and starts to be refurbished. But for the purposes of this application, that's not happening.
Thank you.
The question is, could we actually stipulate that it should be internal?
I suppose the question is it necessary to make the development acceptable? Do we require that as part of this planning permission? Would we refuse it without that alteration? I suppose ultimately that's what it boils down to. In my view, no. And I don't think we have a solid footing on which to require that.
Can I just add to that? I mean, we have to obviously be proportionate, and the proposal hasn't come forward with that as a proposal. So in this case, given it's operating as its last use as a commercial and its new use as a residential, I don't think it would be proportionate or reasonable to now ask for that as a requirement of this application to ensure the application is acceptable. That would be our recommendation to the committee.
Thank you. Councillor Prutten.
Just as a curiosity, where do the local people park their cars? I know it's not relevant to this application, but this is just curiosity, really.
There's no parking associated with the property. So I suppose they will park where they can in and around town. Having said that, and as the report sets out, it's in quite a sustainable location where people have ready access to the range of services within the town. So in this case, we're not stipulating or requiring any parking associated.
No, I appreciate that, but it was just to sort of get a fuller picture of what living in there might entail.
Good. Any other questions? Open debate. Councillor Folger. You are on.
Given the explanation by the officer, I think it is an acceptable application, and I'd like to propose that we approve it.
Okay. Okay, Tony. Okay. Okay. Well, we've been proposed and been seconded. If there's no other questions, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Lovely. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Morning, Tony.
Good morning, everyone.
Just check his declarations.
Yeah.
Did I accept that?
While we're there, Tony, do you have any declarations of interest?
None whatsoever.
Radio, thank you very much.
Only interested in what's going on.
Al, that was good time. You're here in time for item 2,
Oh, that's good.
which is when the gentlemen are ready. is you all set, Chris? Okay, item 2, units 1 to 12, Elsham Business Park, Richard Oakes Road, Elsham. Over to you.
Sorry, Chairman.
Sorry.
Mr. Riley's just arrived.
Oh.
too. Just need to let him say that. Ask him his declarations as well.
We're on item 2, Steve. Do you have any declarations of interest? Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. So item 2 is application 2021-1604, which is units 1 to 12 Elsham Business Park. The application seeks full planning permission for the change of use of 12 commercial units to 6 alternative uses. So just to put the site and the application into a bit of context, I'll just go through the slides. So this first slide shows the Elsham neighbourhood plan area, but it shows it's not particularly clear, but you can see the main built up form of Elsham. And then the site, which is arrowed here with the blue arrow, is to the northeast of Elsham. And then this plan is taken from the site allocations DPD. And you can see you've got 2 main areas outlined in red, which is defining the settlement boundaries for Elsham. The application site is this dark blue shaded area here, which forms the site allocation AYL4. And that is for commercial uses, and which we'll come on to later. But the site you can see is within the defined settlement limits for Elsham and is also within that site allocation. And also within this area here, which is the smaller area outlined in red, that is a strategic employment site. So this next slide shows Elsham a little bit more context because you've got a few reference points there. So you can see the site is towards the northeast here with the blue arrow again. And then you've got, this is Elsham, this is the marketplace. You've got the Black Boys Hotel there. And then you'd lead up from Gashouse Hill onto Millgate and then to Banningham Road. And then you can also see the A140, which is immediately adjacent to the site on the eastern boundary, obviously leads to North Norfolk, and then towards the south is towards kind of Marsham and Hainford. This next site is a satellite plan, which again just shows the surrounding uses a little bit clearer. So you've got the application site again here with the blue arrow. It's not completely up to date because units have actually been built in this location here, which we'll see later on with a photograph of the units. But you can see some of the surrounding uses. The majority of them, certainly towards the west side of the industrial estate, are more of a kind of industrial type use. And then as you come further towards the east, there are some office buildings in here. And then you've got Elsham Police Investigation Centre, which is immediately to the west. And then you've got CT Baker Builders Merchants, which is immediately to the north of the site. And then here you've got the location plan, which just again gives a little bit of a clearer picture of the kind of east side of that industrial estate. So the application site itself is outlined in red, and you'll see this kind of mainly rectangular shape is the site allocation itself. So the application site only is a kind of small part of that site allocation. Again, you can see the reference to the Norfolk Constabulary's office and the Builders Merchants, which I've spoke about before. This blue land here is land also owned by the applicant, and that was the subject of an application in last year, which was approved in December 2020, and that was approved for 24 other units, which were conditioned to be B1, B2 and B8 uses, so office, storage and distribution and light industrial uses. This is the block plan, which was previously approved. Obviously, nothing's changing as part of this application from this layout. This is reorientated from your previous plans you've shown. So just to give a bit of context, the Builders Merchants here is to the north. Then this is the Police Operational Centre to the west. So you've got Banningham Road here, and then you'll come in from Richard Oakes Road into the site. So the site is kind of 3 blocks of 4 units. So you have 4 units here, 4 units here, and 4 units here. And each of the units has either 3, 4, or 5 parking spaces. And then you've also got bike storage and disabled parking spaces dotted around the site as well. The next slide is a photo of the site, and just to give you your bearings, that's taken, if you can see the mouse, that's taken kind of at the access to the site looking in towards the units. So that is that view from the access road. So you'll have the builders merchants behind where this photo is taken. And that shows the units, as you can see, in that kind of horseshoe shape. And what this photo really emphasizes really is that you've got 12 units which are complete, but you've only got one of them 12 units currently in occupation at the moment. So you've got 11 of the 12 units currently sitting vacant. And that kind of emphasizes why the applicant, I think, has obviously submitted this application to try and get some more flexibility on the site. This is an extract from the site allocations DPD, which is for that site AYL4, and the wording in bold at the top is particularly important here, which is the reason why we're at committee today with this item. It allocates us the land for employment use, but specifically references B1, B2 and B8 uses. And this application is obviously in conflict with that because it's looking to have uses on the site which fall outside of those uses. And then the final slide here is what uses are proposed. So I won't go through these in full detail, but you've got financial services, professional services, and then other services appropriate in commercial, business or service locality. You've got indoor sport, recreation or fitness use, medical or health services, office research and other development which is capable of being carried out in a residential area without causing any detriment to amenity of that area. You've got education provision and storage and distribution. So I'll leave that slide on there because there's a little bit to digest there as I just go through the rest of the report. Just a couple of updates to the report. Firstly, just to confirm that the reason for the application being reported to committee is actually because it conflicts with the site allocation AYL4 within the site allocations DPD. And secondly, the applicant has provided a brief statement as he couldn't attend today, and this was included within the supplementary schedule. Just moving on to the appraisal then. The site is situated within the defined settlement boundaries and is also recognised as a strategic employment site and is also allocated for employment use within the site allocations DPD. At present, there is a condition restricting the units to a B1 office use. The proposal is to change the use of the units to those listed on the screen at the moment to allow the applicant greater flexibility in finding occupants for those units, which is something that has been made particularly difficult following the COVID-19 pandemic. The site allocation specifically references B1, B2 and B8 uses, which are office, general industrial and storage and distribution uses. The application therefore conflicts with this allocation. In September 2020, revisions were made to the use class order, where Class E was introduced, and this is a broader use class which links commercial, business and service uses by bringing together several previous use classes, the aim of this being to allow greater flexibility in changing between commercial uses. It should be noted that the site allocation was written prior to these changes of the use class order. Also that there's been, had there not, have been a condition on the previous application restricting the units to a B1 use, and the applicant could have changed the units to a use within a Class E use class without the need for any planning permission. It is also worth noting that the application site only covers part of this site allocation, with the rest being approved for uses that are in accordance with the allocation. Furthermore, 4 of the 6 uses fall within the new Class E use, and one of the other uses, the B8 use, fits in with the allocation in any event. Therefore, although the allocation refers specifically to certain uses, it is considered that the proposal still provide employment uses on the site, which is the main essence of the allocation. It is considered that the proposals broadly comply with Policy E1, which state that employment sites of a strategic importance will be reserved for employment use. The application is also considered accord with Policy 5 of the JCS and Policy 6 of the Elsham Neighbourhood Plan, which both seek to support development proposals that create employment opportunities. The Highway Authority have raised no objection to the application. However, following further discussions with them, they did state that they may have concerns if several of the units were used as an F1 educational use, And with this in mind, the local planning authority suggests imposing a condition restricting no more than 3 of the 12 units to being in an education use at any one time. So overall, the application, although technically in conflict with the site allocation, it is considered that the proposals will help to create jobs and which will be beneficial both economically and socially. The proposals are not considered to cause any harm to the character of the area, to neighbour amenity or to highway safety, and the application is therefore recommended for approval subject to the conditions listed in the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Has anyone got any questions for clarity? Steve?
Thank you. Essentially, from reading the report, Chris, I believe that the variance that's been put in here and requested under the E-class, under the E-class, it is really because of changing business circumstances that we're all faced in terms of COVID. The needs of business has changed, so it's literally about spreading your ability to attract different businesses, and I believe that's what it's all about. It's fundamentally not changing the actual original intent of business use at that area at all. It's actually just the nature of it because of the COVID situation changing in commercial circumstance. Would that be correct?
Sorry, yeah, that ultimately in a nutshell, that is the basis of it. Yeah, the applicant was originally more than happy with the kind of office restriction being on there, and I think probably envisaged them being all occupied by this point, but obviously COVID and changes of work circumstances has changed a lot. So yeah, it's just to allow that greater flexibility.
Okay, any other questions?
Clarification again, please. F1, education uses things like dance studios, gyms, that sort of thing. Is that what is encompassed in that category?
I'm not sure about gyms. I think gyms is certainly separate. It's more education in terms of small classes. But given the size of the unit, I don't think you'd be looking at kind of a school, any kind of school or anything. But it's
no. I was just thinking. Car parking up there is limited, but I was just wondering what education use would actually encompass. So not gyms, but maybe.
I don't envisage it being gyms. No.
No.
Separate.
Can I just add that ED, as you'll see on your screen, one of the uses we are allowing it to come to, or you can't put on my mic, is indoor sports and recreation or fitness. So there is an element of that, but as Chris has already said, under the new use definitions, those e-uses can now be accommodated had the use been implemented without planning permission. So those listed uses are the ones that can go there. So there's a separate use for indoor sport, recreation and fitness.
Okay.
Just to comment, I would have taken that as small classes or educational suppliers. Is that correct?
I'm not sure about educational suppliers, but again, that essentially might come under one of the professional services. It's an educational supplier.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we're open to debate. Thank you, Councillor Adams.
Could also move with the condition at the same time, Chair. Could also move with the condition at the same time, Chair.
With the condition?
That's in.
They're already there, Steve.
Fine. Just clarifying.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, seconded. Okay, been proposed and seconded. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Lovely. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That moves us on to item 6, and that is appeals. Over to you, Helen.
So just on the appeals list, you'll note that there has just been one submitted. We have none reported from the last committee. So it's just notifying you that we have one that's just been submitted to the planning inspectorate. But we haven't got any other ones to report for this month, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And that concludes today's meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.